the bodice block is partially ready, but we still need to, it's drafted in a loose form, so in order for us to have a closer fit, we need to shape the waist. So how do we go about shaping the waist? The formula for shaping the waist is half waist plus 2 cm. So here, the 2 cm is for ease. So here, the waist measurement I have here is round waist measurement is 84 cm. Half of it is 2 cm. So I'm going to add 2 cm to my 42 cm half waist measurements, and the total is 44 cm. So now I need to get the difference between the original waist measurement and the one I have on my pattern. So how do I go about that? I'm going to measure from my CB line to my shaped underarm seam. When I say shaped underarm seam, it's the place that I took in 2 cm in on my WP waist point. That is the place my ruler is. That's where I'm placing my ruler to get the measurement I have here. From here to here, this is the measurement of the center back. This place is not included. It's going to be, this is where we're cutting from. We're cutting this pattern when we're done with our waist shaping. So from this 2 cm in to my CB line is 24.5. So I'm going to write down the 24.5, which I've already written. Then I come to the center front, I do the same thing. From that shaped underarm seam, the place I took 1.5 cm in, which is a constant measurement. This 2 cm and 1.5 cm is a constant measurement. So from that place I took 1.5 cm in, I'm going to place my ruler and measure it to the cm. What I have here is 28 cm. So 28 cm written. So the total of this is 52.5 cm. So now you're going to take your 52.5 cm and minus it from 44, which is our waist measurement. Our waist measurement plus ease, 44. So the answer to that is 8.5. 52.5 minus 44 is 8.5. So the difference, what we're going to be taking out of this pattern now is 8.5 cm. 8.5 cm from this pattern. That's what we're taking out to get 44. By the time we are done taking out 8.5, we'll have 44, which is our measurement. So how do we go about that? The back, we're going to distribute the 8.5 between the back and the front. The front takes mostly the measurement, while the back takes the smaller part. So for this, I'm going to be using 4 cm. I'm dividing it into two. 8.5, 4 here, the remaining one here, 4.5 there. So the first thing I'll do is to get my slanted back, and it's on my waistline. My slanted back is 2 cm. From my center back, I mark 2 cm. So this is a constant measurement. It depends on the figure you're working with. The purpose of this is to give you a line at the back that is not bulging. When you fix your zip, it doesn't bulge. It makes it lay flat properly at the back without those bulges you get to see when you fix zip or bulkiness, whichever one you choose to call it. So now 2 cm here, I'm going to connect the 2 cm to my point O. Watch the way I'm doing this. To my point O. From here, I measure to my point O. It's going to cut across the bust a bit. It's not crossing across the chest, it's exactly on the line. Then to my point O. Then I'm going to connect it down to my hip point. So this is my slanted back. The next thing to do is to get the dart construction line where I'm going to take the remaining 2 cm of the waist reduction. So how do I get my dart construction line? The dart construction line, you're going to use quarter of your across back. In this case, the quarter of across back is 10 cm, or back width, the quarter of your back width measurement. So to get that, you place it on your center back line, not on the slanted line, on this line, not on this slanted line. So you measure 10 cm from that straight line, center back line, 10 cm, 10 cm, 10 cm. You're going to rule. Make sure you have 10 cm. From this second line, the waist point, you're going to mark 12 cm upward. Connect those dots of 10 cm that you marked. So this is 12 cm. You come downwards by 13 cm. Make sure you have your 10 cm marked so that you have a straight line. So come down by 13 cm. So 13 cm. So now you input your 2 cm remaining, 2 cm waist reduction here, 1 on this side, 1 on this side. Then you plan your dart. Sorry. To get the accurate line. So this is my 1 cm dart. This is going to be taken out. So 2 cm, 2 cm, I already have my 4. So anywhere you see this shaded portion, it means it has to be cut out. It's not included in the pattern. So here, we're cutting this pattern, we're cutting from here if we don't have excess waist to be taken in, because most times if the waist I already know that I will not have excess waist. I won't take more than this. Most times you have a situation whereby your waist is still much. You will now have to take in 1 cm on this side and 1 cm on this side. If that's the case, that means that is the place. If you take in 1 cm from this, from the 2 cm, you take in 1 cm again because of excess waist. You still that is your new shaped seam. That's where you're going to cut from. But since I don't have overly excess waist, this is where I'm cutting out from. So I am shading it so that I will know that this is where I'm cutting out from. If you check the textbook, you will see that the waist on the diagram will have excess waist 1 cm. After taking out 1.5 cm, there's still 1 cm on both sides, taken from the center front, the side front of the center front, and the side back of the center back pattern. But in this case, we don't have that much excess. So the excess I have is going to contain the place I need to put it. So the next thing I'll have to do now is to go to the front. I'm done with the back waist measurement. It's to go to the front, waist reduction, go to the front and plan my dart construction line. What am I going to use to plan the dart construction line? I'm using the same measurement I used to get this dart, which is half of the bust width measurement, which is 11.5. You have to use exactly the same measurement. So if you're using quarter chest width, you have to put the same quarter chest width. But if you're using bust line, you use bust width measurement. So from my CF again, I'm going to measure 11.5, 11.5, 11.5, 11.5. I'm going to rule a straight line. It's going to be 15 cm below from the second line, this waist point or your true waistline, 15 cm below it. Then from this waistline you measure 13 cm up. Note, you have to get the accurate measurement from here, 11.5. So you measure your 13 cm above it. So this is where that line stops. So remember, I have 8.5. 4 I've used 4 at the back. Then the remaining one is 4.5. So I'm going to impute 3.5 on this dart, then the remaining 1 cm here. So 3.5 is 1.75. Half of 3.5 is 1.75. So 1.75 is 1.5, 6, 7, 5. 5, 6, 7, 5. That's a 1.75. 1.75. So I'm going to construct my dart. So 1.75 cm, 1.75 cm. Needs to be taken out. So the remaining 1 cm, you come to your true waistline, you mark your 1 cm. Then you place it to your, it's going to cut through your chest to through your under bust to your bust point, so to your chest. Clearer view. So you mark to your chest point 1 cm, then you shade. Means this needs to be taken out when you tune the pattern. So our waist reduction has been done. There's another thing to note. Most times the bust point, the true bust point, is usually, most times it comes, depending on the measurement, it almost touches the bust line, the 2 cm shoulder dart. Let's say we have a bust point of 30. This is where 30 is. What you do, according to the textbook, the bust point should be at least 2 to 3.5 or thereabout above the bust point. What you do when you have a situation like this, or even a situation whereby the shoulder dart touches the bust point, you move your shoulder dart upward by 2 to 3 cm, 2 to 2.5 cm upward, or 3 or thereabout upward, so that it does not touch the bust point. That is that about that. In this case, the bust point is way below the shoulder dart measurement, so it's fine like this. So we're going to be tracing out our bodice block. So it's important to note that when you draft your bodice block, the original pattern should be kept What you do is to trace out. If you need to use the pattern that has been made, you trace it out and pencil it out. So you use that particularly traced one as your pattern for what you want to design. So I'm going to show us how to trace out this pattern. So here we go. You can start from anywhere, starting from the down part. You trace out the pencils, the lines that you drafted, and make sure you use your tracing where you make sure you apply pressure on it so that it shows at the on the other paper. Sorry, I forgot to tell you that before you trace, you have to put your pattern, put your paper underneath, depending on how many pattern you're trying to trace. Like here I have two of this because I want 2 bodice block. So you put it, you see, you make sure it's equal. It's equal, everything is aligned. Then you can also use a pin to secure it. I use the pin to secure mine so that it doesn't shift when I'm tracing. So you do that. And make sure you follow the straight line. Tracing on the center back line. Tracing on the slanted CB. Now I'm going to go to my waistline. trace it to the front waistline, the first line. Tracing the dots. There's a tendency for your hand to move when you're tracing to another side, so you make sure you go back and continue from where it moved. Follow the straight line, whichever line you're tracing. So on this side, we're only going to trace out that 2 cm. Remember, we had 2 cm on our shaped underarm seam. This is the part we're using. We don't need this part, so this is the part we're tracing. We don't need the straight underarm seam. We need the shaped underarm seam. This is where we are cutting out from. So we'll trace to this UP. So you're tracing for your armhole here, you're tracing through this 1 cm in. So this is your armhole. Go to your shoulder, trace. As time goes on, you discover that you might not need to trace everything, but I'm just tracing out everything for you to see. When you understand the pattern properly, you will know what to trace, the place that you need to trace, especially when it comes to this side of the pattern on the shoulder. That I'll explain what I'm talking about when I get to that place. So now this dart, this is the darts we need. We need this dart and this dart. So you can either leave this or trace it if you don't understand. But you can trace it and add to this, or we just trace the dart because this is the only thing we need. We don't need this thing. But for the purpose of this, let me trace it so that trace out. Outline. not compulsory you trace the shoulder, but I'm just tracing out everything so that you see what it looks like being traced out. We're done with that. Next thing we're going to do is to cut out our pattern. Cut it out and now cut it on our fabric. Place it on our fabric and cut it. But before we cut out our pattern, this 1 cm here, we are going to try 1 cm waist reduction that we did at the center front. At the center front, we're going to transfer it to this, to the side seam, the shaped side seam, so that we'll be able to cut a straight line on this CF here. If not, if we're cutting, we will have to cut through and it's going to affect our measurement. So in order for us to have a straight line, we will have to transfer this 1 cm measurement waist reduction on the side, or you can transfer it here, but I want to transfer it on my side seam. So I come here, I transfer the 1 cm to the side seam. Take my coil, connect it back to the UV, then back to my HB. So then I cut. You cut from the 75 cm measurement length. The remaining cm, remaining measurements down after your hip measurements will now be your hem allowance. So you cut the shaded part, needs to be cut out. So you come here, from here you cut, from the slanted CV, so your neck points. So what you do is to get the straight line here, so that you cut through the right part. So if you want to be on the safe side, you measure your 27 cm that you have here. So that's it, 27. Cut. Cuts the center, the shoulder line. I forgot, I'm supposed to remember we have excess 2.5 here on the shoulder line that we included as that. So if you don't want to take the darts, you can also measure 2.5 cm. You measure your 2.5 cm. This is it. You connect it back from this back line. disconnect it from the back line. So this would now be your new SP. You cut from there. That way you have your real shoulder measurement. So you cut from there. So the back CB. The next thing to do is to cut the front. So you come from your top line, you follow the shape of the shoulder. Armhole shape. Followed our 1 cm base reduction that we just did. We cut, and that's try to trim this off. And that's that. Now cut out this margin that we have there. So your neckline, on your MP, you cut out the neckline. F is ready. So this is your pattern. So this is what it's going to look like. So this is your CB, CF. So this is what it looks like. So now, before you cut, you're going to cut this on fold. You draw your green line, the indication. So once you see something like this, an arrow like this, means cut on fold. Cut on fold. Then the green line means you're cutting on the straight grain of the fabric. About that later. Then here it cuts 2 times, times 2. You do the same thing, draw your grain line. So our pattern is ready. It's ready.